Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 2, chapter 5, and this morning we're doing text 17. So without further ado, we'll start the class. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadhatari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadhatari Yashodanandana Pratajanaranjana Yashodanandana Pratajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadhatari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadhatari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadhatari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajagacharya Stotra Satyashishi Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajagacharya Stotra Satyashishi Maharaj Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki jaya. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Ko. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Koshara Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namani. Namaste Krishna Guraya Prabhupada Siddhartha Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Namani. Narayana Namaskritya Naronteva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nashta Prayisva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Canto means division, so division 2, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 17. Tasha pidastu ishasya kutastasya kilatmana srijam shishtoham ikshayeva vichodita tasya pidastu ishasya kutastasya kilatmana srijam shishtoham ikshayeva Iksheya Yeva Bichodita Tasyapi Dastu Istasya Kutastasya Kilatmana Srijam Ishistoham Ikshayeva Bichodita. Hare Krishna. Please unmute and chant.
Tasyapi drashtu isasya kutastasya kilatmana srijam sristoham eksaya vipichodita. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
तस्यापि द्रष्टुरीशस्य कूटस्थस्याखिलात्मनः सृजं सृजामि स्रष्टुहम् ईक्षय एव अभिचोदितः हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna.
तस्यापि दृष्टिरिष्यस्य कूटस्थस्य अखिलात्मनः सृजं सृजामि सृष्टोऽहम् ईक्षयैवाभिचोदितः. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण तस्यापि दृष्टुरीशस्य कूटस्थस्याखिलात्मनः सृज्यं सृजामि सुष्ठुहम् ईक्षयेवाभिचोदितः हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Okay. Word for word translation. Tasya, his. Api, certainly. Drashtu, of the seer. Ishasya, of the controller. Kutastaya, one of the one who is over everyone's intelligence. Akilatmana, of the supersoul. Srijam, that which is already created. Srijavi, do I discover. Shrishta, created. Aham, myself. Ikshaya, by glance over. Eva, certainly. Abhichodita, being inspired by him. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Inspired by him only, I discover what is already created by him, Narayan, under his vision, as the all-pervading supersoul. And I also am created by him only. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Even Brahma, the creator of the universe, admits that he is not the actual creator, but is simply inspired by the Lord Narayan, and therefore creates under his superintendence those things already created by him, the supersoul of all living entities. Two identities of soul, the supersoul and the individual soul, are admitted to be in the living entity, even by the greatest authority of the universe. The supersoul is the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, whereas the individual soul is the eternal servitor of the Lord. The Lord inspires the individual soul to create what is already created by the Lord. And by the goodwill of the Lord, a discoverer of something in the world is accredited as the discoverer. It is said that Columbus discovered the Western Hemisphere, but actually the tract of land was not created by Columbus. The vast tract of land was already there by the omnipotency of the Supreme Lord, and Columbus, by dint of his past service unto the Lord, was blessed with the credit of discovering America. Similarly, no one can create anything without the sanction of the Lord. Since everyone sees according to his ability, since everyone sees according to his ability, this ability is also awarded by the Lord according to one's willingness to render service unto the Lord. One must therefore be voluntarily willing to render service unto the Lord, and thus the Lord will empower the doer in proportion to his surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord Brahma is a great devotee of the Lord, and therefore he has been empowered or inspired by the Lord to create such a universe as the one manifested before us. The Lord also inspired Arjuna to fight in the field of Kurukshetra as follows. Tasmat tvam utishta yasho lavasva jitva shastun bungshva rajam samriddham maya vaite nihata purvam eva nimita matram bhava savya sachin. Bhagavad Gita chapter 11 text 33. The battle of Kurukshetra or any other battle at any place or at any time is made by the will of the Lord. For no one can arrange such mass annihilation without the sanction of the Lord. The party of Duryodhana insulted Draupadi, a great devotee of Krishna, and she appealed to the Lord as well as to all the silent observers of this unwarranted insult. Arjuna was then advised by the Lord to fight and take credit. Otherwise, the party of Duryodhana would be killed anyway by the will of the Lord. So Arjuna was advised just to become the agent and take the credit for killing great generals like Bhishma and Karna. In Vedic writings such as the Katha Upanishad, the Lord is described as the Sarva Bhuta Antaratma, or the personality of Godhead who resides in everyone's body and who directs everything for one who is a soul surrendered unto him. Those who are not surrendered souls are put under the care of the material nature. Brahmayan sarvabhutani jantarudani mayaya. Therefore, they are allowed to do things on their own account and suffer the consequences themselves. Devotees like Brahma and Arjuna do not do anything on their own account, but as fully surrendered souls, they always await indications from the Lord. Therefore, they attempt to do something which appears very wonderful to ordinary vision. One of the Lord's names is Urukram, or one whose actions are very wonderful and are beyond the imagination of a living being. So the actions of his devotees sometimes appear very wonderful due to the direction of the Lord. Beginning from Brahma, the topmost intelligent living entity within the universe, down to the smallest ant, every living entity's intelligence is overseen by the Lord in his transcendental position as the witness of all actions. The subtle presence of the Lord is felt by the intelligent man who can study the psychic effects of thinking, feeling, and willing. Oma Gyanati Virandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Gyana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Maro Vishtam Stapitam Gyana Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Nama Om Vishnu Panaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaur Vani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Rishitarini Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guratiche Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. English translation again. Inspired by him only, I discover what is already created by him, Narayan, under his vision as the all-pervading supersoul. And I also am created by him only. Hare Krishna. So these are the words of Lord Brahma, the second creator. We call Lord Brahma the second creator because the universes came to be from Mahavishnu. Krishna's expansion is Mahavishnu. And then in each universe, he expands to Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, through whom Brahma is born. So Brahma is the engineer of the universe in terms of creating the varieties in the universe. Now, the way Lord Brahma is speaking now, he's speaking to his son Narada. He's saying that inspired by the Lord only, I discover what is already created by him, Narayan. Narayan is another name of the Lord. Under his vision. So Lord Brahma is saying, I'm actually not the ultimate creator. The ultimate creator is the Lord himself. And me being designated by the Lord to create varieties, it's almost like what Lord Brahma is saying, if we bring it down to our terms. Anybody that's put a jigsaw puzzle together understands this. The pieces were already provided by the Lord. And then he was given the intelligence. Brahma, was given the intelligence how to put the pieces together to bring the varieties in the universe in terms of the planets and the things that are inside each planet or on the planet, outside and on the surface as well as inside, all created by Brahma. The intelligence was given to him by the Lord. So he's saying, well, the parts to make it were all available, and the intelligence to put it together was given by the Lord to me. Therefore, he ultimately is the creator. He just made me do the tail end of it, but he supplied everything. That's the point he's making. Mm-hmm. So, and then he gave the inspiration and the knowledge also. And Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, an incarnation of the Lord, gave Lord Brahma the knowledge to do this. So he is really being, as in American terms, brutally honest. He is not taking credit for him being the creator. This is the same personality that is described in the Bible as, the Lord said, let this be, and then it comes to be. He's the one speaking. And he says that the higher power, Lord Narayan, under his supervision, as the all-pervading supersoul, which means the Lord expands. Narayan, definitely the Lord for each of the spiritual planets. But he's also the controller. And then in this expansion, he is present in our hearts as the supersoul. Then the individual soul is also in the heart of a living entity. So the Lord is the one as supersoul that supervises everything and permits things to happen, as Srila Prabhupada would explain more in the purport. So Brahma, the creator of the universe, the second creator, because the universe came to be from the Lord himself, and then Brahma is also given the same, given reverence, but sometimes we call him Lord Brahma. But when I'm saying the Lord, I mean the Supreme Lord Krishna himself, or his expansion. So Brahma, the creator of the universe, admits that he's not the actual creator. That's why we're saying he's the second creator. He was inspired by the Lord to take the pieces and put it together into different objects. Some of them the planets, some of them the varieties inside the planets, all of that put together by Lord Brahma. But he's saying that he's inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mm-hmm. So, what do we learn from this? Everything in this universe, or let's bring it down to our planet, because what's what we know about our planet, is put together first by the Lord as Lord Vishnu, then in second creation by Lord Brahma. Therefore, anything that anyone does on this earth, that person is a third creator. Everything that's been put together, they are from the third creator. We. First creator that made the universes possible, Mahavishnu, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Second creator, Brahma, made the planets and the varieties we call nature. And then we take nature and fashion it to other products. So we are third creators. Therefore, we shouldn't feel so puffed up in our position, because when it comes to any situation, the person that is topmost is the most recognized. And in this case, the Supreme Lord. Brahma comes next, and then we. So we are a distant third. And that's the people who come up with different things, going to nature and taking the starting materials from nature and fashioning them into some products. Now, Srila Prabhupada also describes the super soul and the individual soul. So in every living entity's heart, human or otherwise, there are 8,400,000 different types of bodies, of which 400,000, this is in the whole material creation now, the whole material, all the universes. Those categorized in the human platform having the higher intelligence, 400,000 of them. 8 million are in the animal or bird or insect or reptile or tree or aquatics, that type of body. They don't have as much intelligence as humans have. And when we say humans, it means those who are in heavenly planets, different types of angels, they all are put in the category of humans, and the total in the whole universe is 400,000, which is only like 5% of all the bodies, because the entire total of the bodies that a soul can occupy is 8,400,000. So here, in each, Papa is saying the identities of soul, super soul, and individual soul, they are in the living entity, every living entity. So the super soul is the Supreme Lord, and the individual soul is supposed to be serving the Supreme Lord. So as third creators, the way we described it, whatever we come up with, we should use it in serving the Lord. If we serve ourselves, then we are going to be in a situation where we'll stay in this material world, which is a world of suffering. Birth is difficult, death is difficult, and very unfortunate and not welcome in our minds, but we can't stop it. There's old age, we can't stop that. And every now and then some kind of disease affects someone. And that's the suffering condition that we have here in this world. So as far as creation, even as third creators, people here that take nature, things from nature, and fashion it into some product, the inspiration is still given by the Lord as super soul. The super soul is the one that inspires the intelligence to come up with a way in which to take the materials that already is in nature and fashion it into some sort of product. So it's the goodwill of the Lord that anybody can either discover something. So a discovery should be put in its proper perspective. Everything that is been provided by the Lord is already available by Lord Brahma's second creation. Hmm? So anybody else that finds something and said, I have discovered this, it's like people didn't know a certain thing was there, and then somebody just comes upon it and say, oh, tells the world that there is this thing here. It does not mean they own it. Everything is owned by the Lord. Hmm? So one time there was a morning walk. Srila Prabhupada is going on a morning walk with his disciples. And it gets very interesting in these morning walks because it's not like he's in the temple preaching. He's outside, and then he's walking, and the devotees, this is for exercise, for his own body. The devotees throw all kinds of questions at him. Mm. Sometimes, in a sense, with all due respect given to him, they would debate him a little bit what they have learned. And all of these things were very smart. Somebody took a recorder. So everything that was being talked about, even in the morning walks, were recorded. And see, Prabhupada, he was talking about how the human being of this earth now has become a cheater, rascal, fools, and he was backing up his point. And some of these devotees were quoting from the Bible. God gave dominion over all things to man. Srila Prabhupada said, yes, God gave dominion. What does that mean? Hmm? Does that mean you have to kill the animal? He said, unless you don't understand what the dictionary meaning of killing is, he says, I'm paraphrasing, it is in the Bible that thou shalt not kill. Hmm? Then people say, oh, no, 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 no. It means that we don't kill human beings. Srila Prabhupada said, thou shalt not kill is what is written. They did not specify human beings. Thou shalt not kill. Hmm? And that was one point. He said, one devotee is saying, but God gave us right to do whatever we wanted with the earth. You, Sri Prabhupada said, no, God didn't give you that right. God gave a right to all living entities. They have rights too. All living entities have rights to be here. Every living entity is a son of the Lord. And in the proper perspective about all things, there's even a servant of the Lord. But yeah, we're created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are part and parcel of Him. So it's for everyone, not just the human beings only. Hmm? The devotees argued still. God said we have dominion, do whatever we want with this, and then says people are going to be fighting each other. Hmm? And he began to prove it. Why there are wars. He said, what's the standard of money? And it took the devotees a little bit longer to figure it out. He kept saying, what is the standard of money? Then somebody said gold. He said, right, gold is the metal, the precious metal that backs up money. But who owns the gold? Is it yours? Hmm? Did your ancestors put the gold there? You began to realize, no, it's not. The gold is put there by the Lord. And so what's going on is that people try to get gold, as much gold, and they fight each other because they want to be the dominant country. But nobody's realizing that everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if you use it to serve Him, then this is the way we become happy. And Srila Prabhupada proved it. In fact, in this purport also, and other ones we will talk about, Srila Prabhupada says, everything, this vast tract of land was already there. Even Columbus was given credit in a very, very interesting way. Srila Prabhupada talks about he must have had some good karma in the past to be able to come on this land and find out that Western Hemisphere, the existence of this land. Hmm? Columbus's own good karma. past service unto the Lord. Srila Prabhupada says, puts it that way. So the Lord blessed him with the credit of discovering America. The extent to which we surrender to the Lord, he will reward accordingly. The extent to which we surrender, the Lord will in fact reward accordingly. And another point is that no one can do or create anything without the sanction of the Lord. We own these bodies, or at least we think we own these bodies, but it's actually owned by the Lord. When we're going to do anything, we make any plans, I will use my hand to do this and that and that. But the super soul in our bodies, in the earth, in the heart area, sanctions it. The proof is, if the Lord decides that the hand is not going to work, paralyzed, then what can we do with it? Nothing. So whatever that happens, it is actually by the sanction of the Lord. But many people who are not spiritual don't realize that, and they just think that, yeah, I just do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. The same thing that we think about ourselves, we think about the land also. I do whatever I want with the land. But we have to acknowledge who put the land there. Mm-hmm. Lord Brahma is admitting, even though he was the one that was credited with the varieties from the planet of the universe to make the different planets, even he is saying that it is all from the Lord. The inspiration also came from the Lord. So the lesson is, whatever we do, we should give credit to the Lord. The ability, the inspiration, all come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is how we mentally get ourselves to the point of surrendering to the Lord. Everything comes from the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada says, one must therefore be voluntarily, that is on your own accord, be willing to render service to the Lord. When we render service to the Lord, then the Lord will empower us in proportion to the extent to which we surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord. The more surrendered we are, the more empowered we will become. And the person that's empowered to do different things would think in terms of serving the Lord because they are already surrendered, rendering services to the Lord. And that person would be used by the Lord. And even the Lord would do it in such a way that he gives credit to the devotee. The Lord is omnipotent, true enough, but he prefers that the devotee gets credit. In the Battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna was given the task of, because he was a trained Kshatriya general, of fighting on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna said that Duryodhana, those who were on the opposite side, would have been killed whether Arjuna chose to fight or not. It would have happened. But one that is surrendered to Krishna, Krishna likes to get things done through that person. And the more surrendered the person is, the more that wonderful feats can be achieved by that person through the inspiration of Krishna. So sometimes we think about, I want to do this, I want to do that. We have big plans. But our big plans, whatever the big plans are, we have to think in terms of, one, where would the inspiration come from? Not us. Sabhasya Cham Hridi Shanivisto, Mata Spriti Gyanam Apohanam, Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, text 15. Krishna says, as super soul, he is seated in everyone's heart, and from him comes what? Knowledge, to even remember it, and also forgetfulness. So everything is inspired by and controlled by and permitted by the super soul, the Lord as the Paramatma. And that is our situation. So if we want to be happy, we have to be more surrendered to the Lord. Not only that, we have to understand that everything that's around us that we use is in fact put there by the Lord, and we are not supposed to abuse it. We're supposed to use it in service to the Lord. If we do things for just ourselves without having the Lord be, served directly or indirectly, we're being selfish. That's what it boils down to. We're being selfish. Duryodhana was being selfish. Hmm? He hated the Pandavas. He insulted their wife, Draupadi, and in the end, he wanted to fight, hmm, simply to take over control of the earth as emperor after his father. He wanted that. His father also wanted that. But they knew that the kingdom was not supposed to be for them. It was for the Pandavas. Still, out of being envious and trying to cheat, even to the point of trying to kill the Pandavas earlier in their lives, when a person is surrendered to the Lord will give protection in many, many, many situations. This is not only Draupadi, who was protected by the Lord, or the Pandavas who were protected by the Lord, and for that matter, Maharani Kunti, their mother. Everybody gets protection to the extent that we surrender to the Lord. So, what is surrender? My Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Maharaj explained this, what surrender is and what surrender is not. So, let's talk about what it is not. For example, in a war, two sides fighting, and one side is very, 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 very proficient in the fight and is actually beating up on the other side. And the other side realizes that they're not going to be able to win this war. So they decide to give up. And they surrender, they wave a white flag and say, we give up. And then, of course, the soldiers become prisoners of war. But they gave up because they couldn't fight the opposite side. That's not the surrender that's being talked about here. Surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is like we have a father and mother, and we are the little child, and we get put in a difficult situation, or maybe we banged our toe or something and it hurts, and we begin to cry. And the first thing we think of is run to mommy, run to daddy. I'm going to get some sort of help. I trust fully that my parent knows what to do for me. Therefore, I'll go to my parent. That is the surrender that's being talked about here. Surrender means dependence on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it makes sense to do that because he put everything there that's there on this earth and in the other planets and in the universes, as Lord Brahma is explaining here. But the Lord, because of his love for us, he always wants to set up things in such a way that we become the agents of the things that he wants done. He'd rather be in the background and have his spirit devotee who is surrendered to him be the one who gets the credit, who does the work and gets the credit. Mm-hmm. So that is not a situation for Arjun only. It is a situation for everybody. The extent to which we are surrendered, Krishna will use us also. The first thing is to clean up our act mentally, for lack of a better way to put it. Get rid of the cobwebs, the negative things that are in our hearts. Every living entity is a creation from the Lord. We should understand that and not pass judgment on them in a very negative way. We see everybody just like the pandit sees. Pandita Samadashina. They see everyone based on the soul. Every living entity is in fact a soul in some sort of physical body. So every time we see every living entity, including humans and non-humans alike, and we think of them that there's a soul there, there's a super soul there in the heart of this living entity, then we would become a little more cautious in how we deal with that entity. In other words, we would not be wanting to put negative things or put them in some sort of difficult situation. We should never be about that. And we also should, everything that we're doing, we want to give either directly or indirectly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that way we'll be thinking about the Lord all the time. And that thought and that surrender, as we explained, would eventually make us feel safe. And from the safety, happiness would come. Because then safety means we're not fearful. And if we're not fearful, then we are happy. Mm-hmm. And so for us, even while we're in this material world, we're not back in the spiritual world yet. Still, Krishna is here with us as Super Soul, and he's guiding us to the agency of the spiritual master. And all we have to do is just simply follow the instructions of the Lord, and we will, in fact, not only be safe, but happy and prosperous. Mm-hmm. It is very interesting that sometimes we try to plan things in ourselves, by ourselves. We're going to do it this way, we'll do it that way. It is not wrong to plan things, but we always should say, if the Lord permits it, then let it happen this way, or let it happen that way. And if the Lord doesn't want to, please change it as you like. So that way, a surrendered soul always thinks that whatever they're going to do should be sanctioned by the Lord. Even though we have a free choice, we have a free will, a surrendered soul gives the free will back to the Lord and say, you run my life as you see fit. That way, then whatever happens, it would be based on what Krishna wants, because we ourselves have given ourselves to be used as instruments for service to the Lord. This is how we become happy. The Lord, one of the Lord's names is Urukram. His actions are very wonderful. But he actually likes to give credit to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the conclusion is that the more surrendered we are, the more wonderful things will happen through us. The Lord will inspire us to do wonderful things, the more surrendered. So how do we become surrendered? When we do service from our hearts, that's called loving service. When we serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and serve the devotees and serve the spiritual master from our hearts, then several things will be caused to happen through us by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we'll see the results in our own personal lives. We'll see the results in the temples that we go to. We will see things happening that are very positive. So, Srila Prabhupada ends by saying that the subtle presence of the Lord being behind everything, is felt by the intelligent man through thinking, feeling, and willing. Everything is done through the Lord. Anyone who says, I want to do things on my own, the Lord will not push you. But then we are under the agency of the material energy, and whatever happens, happens. Whereas the person that's submitted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrendered to him, whatever that he does, he says, let the Lord make it happen as he wants. And that's the person that lives in total happiness, confidence, and also safety. All of that is there. That's why the Lord was saying, Arjun, get up, prepare to fight, conquer the enemies, and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. Now, Krishna told Arjun, they are already put to death by my arrangement. Just be an instrument in the fight. This is an instruction to Arjun, but actually it's an instruction to us too. Everything the Lord wants done is already done, but that is, he's behind everything that's supposed to happen. His plans are there. And then he uses us as instruments. But who are us? Who are we? We are the ones who are submitted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, if we don't submit to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrender to him, and say, let everything happen through you, then it'll be up to us and the material energy and whatever happens to us then. Business as usual, but that will never make us happy. So the whole point is how to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead This is Lord Brahma that actually created the planets and so on. And he's saying, it was all there. I was just inspired by the Lord to put it together. He doesn't even give himself credit. Hmm? So these are all things that we have to learn, and it makes us more humble. So the conclusion, few points, the Lord's hand is in everything that his devotee does at service. The Lord, the same Lord Brahma says, Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the cause of all causes. Hmm? The Lord's hand is in the background of everything that his devotee does at service to him and service to other devotees. Hmm? Now, also, we have to be aware that there will be more activities achieved by a humble devotee of the Lord because the Lord likes the devotee to take credit for activities, just like he had Arjun take credit, even though he already knew that by his arrangement, all the 600 plus million soldiers were dead. That was his arrangement, but he still wanted to give Arjun credit for actually going through the war itself as a soldier. So it makes sense to serve the Lord with all our hearts. Serving the Lord means the Lord's parts and parcels too. Serve other devotees with all our hearts. Be kind to everyone, be kind to every living entity. And finally, we should not take credit for anything. If we are in that type of mindset, not taking credit, then we will grow and we'll be happier than ever because much of Krishna's magic will take place in our lives. We use the word Krishna magic. My Guru Maharaj coined this combination, Krishna magic, because many things will happen that we couldn't even have planned for. It will happen in our lives. It's all a question of how much we see Krishna's hand in everything and how much we're willing to have Krishna come into our lives in everything that we do. It's that simple, but if we have a big ego, we want to do everything ourselves, and then we go through so many problems. But with the Lord, who already has done everything and just simply wants to give us credit, we will not have life a lot easier. Life will be a lot easier to handle. We will just work like anybody else, but at the back of our mind, we know that the Lord is actually there, running everything, and we are just the instruments being used. And that is the best way to live life. Shira Prabhupada ki jai. So thank you very much for coming on this morning to hear. Hearing is very important for all of us. It's for my own purification too, as we're speaking. This is the time to unmute yourself and ask questions or share realizations. So, whatever else that you want to talk about, you can bring it up then. Hare Krishna.
So, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. So,
Accept mine, Lord Srila Prabhupada.
For me, I think it's a class of remembrance, as in terms of, as a reminder. I think that's the right word. To really help us understand and see is nothing happens without the sanction of the Lord. Everything is controlled by the Lord. And sometimes it's very difficult to accept that, especially when we are going through difficult times, challenging times, depressing times, whatever the times that's negative. And I think that's the time where, when we go through that, like you were mentioning, the meaning of surrender, is like a child. When they're lost in the store, the first person they look for is mommy and daddy. That is their God, lack of a better word, And we are always lost every single day in our lives. And we should just keep thinking of Krishna and running to him. And Krishna will send the help. We're not pure enough, at least I'm not pure enough to see the Lord, but the Lord will send help. And, in any shape, form, and manner through his devotees to help us become strong, in those challenges. And I want to thank you for actually addressing Queen Kunti's challenges. Was also a very powerful point. But yeah, and I think one point that was a takeaway for me is doing everything to please the Lord.
Mhm.
I think you touched upon that too, how important it is to do everything because we want to please Krishna. We want to please the Lord. So thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And speaking about pleasing the Lord himself is most pleased when we serve or please his devotees. The more we serve the devotees, the more Krishna becomes happy with us. We can serve Krishna in a way of showing love for Krishna. Krishna doesn't need our service. But devotees, when you serve them, they actually do need it. And they are also parts and parcels of the Lord. Therefore, Krishna is even more pleased when we serve his devotee than when we serve him. But we also have to understand all devotees are parts and parcels of the Lord. And therefore, serving devotees also means serving the Lord. In fact, Srila Radha Maharaj said that in order to learn to love the Lord, we have to learn to love the devotees first. And from loving devotees, we will understand how to love the spiritual master. And from loving the spiritual master, we will in fact learn how to love the Lord. Spiritual master is a representative of the Lord. Therefore, if we do things to serve him from our hearts, then we will serve the Lord easily when we see him. Or even serve the deities now. By the Lord's mercy, the deities are available. We can do archana, worship of the deities wonderfully also. It starts, never neglect devotees. The welfare and the happiness of devotees is on every other devotee. We have to make sure we're like that. Then we will in fact be very happy. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your comments. Any other person? You can unmute. Hare Krishna. All right. If not, we are almost at the hour now. It's only a minute to 9. We can stop here. And thank you for coming on. I know there are many of you that come on regularly, but there are at least some two devotees that got on today. That one for the first time, and it's nice to see Dr. Bed also back on the Zoom lecture. Vanchakapatarubhascha kripa sindhve evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you and have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. Tomorrow is Ekadashi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Glory to the Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to the Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Glory to the
Enjoyed
Prabhupada.
Gita Jayanti.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Yeah, that is on Wednesday. Yeah, tomorrow.